Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling better. I was real sick for a while.
Oh, that's
Got
right.
some kind of
I know.
flu thing or something, but I'm feeling a bit
I'm
better
so
now.
glad you're back. I know it's absolutely going around. But thank you so much for joining us. I know you probably have a lot of fans and followers and friends that are excited to see you and hear you
Yeah.
talk. And I mean, most importantly, recently, if you didn't catch it, Mike's work is currently up on the Sphere in Las Vegas. We did the New Year's Eve countdown show with him. His work was phenomenal. Mike, for those that are joining and those that know you and maybe don't know you, why don't you give a little intro about yourself, where you're based, how you define your work in your own words?
I'm Mike, Uon. I like to make trippy stuff like that. And yeah, it's just been, I don't know, I started teaching myself animation as a hobby, just to kind of, recreate some visuals I see in my head. And it just kind of exploded from there. And yeah, I ended up getting my work on the most advanced display on the planet. And it was mind blowing. I actually drove down there to see it because, I mean, how could I not? And
I can't, I mean, it's like, for those of you that have seen it or haven't seen it, the Sphere in Vegas is like the perfect background display visual for Mike's work. And it feels like it was honestly meant to be on there. And what did you ended up making 7 animations for
yeah,
it, was it?
yeah,
Huge. So that ran for New Year's Eve. That's running for 2025. And if you have a chance to see it, I feel like it was, I mean, it's monumental for your work, monumental for Vegas, and like such a cool thing altogether.
yeah, it was awesome. It was unbelievable. What an experience.
Yeah, totally. I'm like so thrilled that you had the opportunity and that you were able to see it in person, for sure. So I think that, there's probably a lot of questions that people have, like in regards to your technical process, in regards to your inspiration. Anyone that's joining that has questions, there's a little question mark button at the bottom. We're going to get to the live Q&A after Mike and I wrap out for a little bit. So feel free to add a question in there and we'll get to it at the end. There's going to be a lot of comments rolling that are going to be hard to catch. So, Mike, let's talk about, from the beginning. How did you get started, like with your inspiration? It was just things that you saw in your head, things that you like envisioned, kind of, like as a visual artist, as a visionary, like how did this even start?
Well, I'm a very visual person. Like, I only think in pictures, so I kind of, and I really like music and have synesthesia, so whenever I'm listening to music, certain sounds make certain shapes in my head, like I'm seeing it kind of. So I used to really like the Windows Media Player animations and like Milk Drop, if anyone remembers those back in the day, like all these crazy graphics would change on your screen and like to the music. I used to love watching that stuff because it was like, it's pretty much what's going on in my head, but it's like someone programmed it. And I had a few different experiences, like some psychedelic trips where I would close my eyes and see some stuff and it would be very vivid. I'm like, I really need to like figure out a way to recreate this crazy geometry and stuff. So I started teaching myself animation, and it was just like as a hobby, just for fun, kind of like figuring out how to like translate what I'm seeing in my mind into like something in the real world, into like, then it's mostly like mathematical stuff. There's no like, not usually any real life things happening, so I'm like, I could kind of like, I have a background in coding and I'd probably figure out how to make this pretty easily. And I started posting it online and it just took off. Like, people were loving it. And there was a turning point because in the first 2 years, like, it started growing fast, but then there was a turning point. I decided just for fun to animate some cats. I got some cat models online and I was like, I'm going to make these things dance. So I like took the cat models and instead of being on all fours, I applied some human dance moves to them, and that video went absolutely viral. Like, it got something like 8 million views, and I was like, and that's what showed people to all the other stuff I was making, and then it really took off. So I was able to start like selling my stuff and upgrading my computers. And really, the thing is, like, it takes a long time to render these, because I want to make it the best possible quality, and I want to make something that people haven't seen before. So really throwing enough computing horsepower at it to just kind of really push the limits and take advantage of any new technology that comes out, like VR, HDR, like high frame rate stuff, all that.
It's so amazing. So it started with cats and psychedelics,
Yeah.
like most things do.
Yeah.
And is your cat, I know you have at least one cat, is that a big inspiration for you? I know it's always a great studio mate, studio partner.
Yeah. I made those cats before I even got a cat, because the place I lived in before wouldn't allow cats. So as soon as I moved, I got a cat, and she's yawning. She's staring at me right now from the other room, wondering who I'm talking to.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise and not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Except for everyone that's joining us, and of course all the fans, all the followers, all the fans. I think that one of the reasons that your work stands out so much is like the quality and the depth and the sharpness, and like how you intentionally make it as high resolution, high def as you can. And I mean, it's like unlike anything else out there. And I know that's super, intentional, and has to do with all of the way you've set up your systems and your software and everything. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or your process, or just kind of like the tech stuff for those that are super curious?
Oh, here we go. All right, so first off, I like to ray trace everything, because when I first started, I just had this, like, at the time it was like a 6-year-old computer. I had to, like, it was not ray trace, it was just the simplest animations. And I was like, man, these could look so much better if I had better hardware. So over time, I got some more GPUs. I got a new render engine. I use Octane for like full path tracing. Like, it simulates light at like the photon level. So that way I can like, it takes so much longer, but like the more GPUs you have, the better the faster it goes.
Yeah.
So it was really slow at first. It would take like a week to render like 15 seconds. And I was like, okay, I mean, I can make some really cool looking stuff. But as my visuals got more popular and started being able to sell them, then I was able to get some like real serious like horsepower and get like a lot more GPUs. So I think now I have 9 working right now. I have a bunch. I'm running out of computers. I'm running out of power in my place. I have a bunch where the fans died, so I have to replace the fans. I've already replaced the fans on some of these like twice already, because they're just like running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, always rendering.
So it's no joke. There's no joke to what we're doing here.
Yeah, my power bill is insane.
We're maxed out. We're maxed out. Give me an idea about how long it took to render one of the animations for the sphere. For the outside of the sphere, he did 7 animations that are running all year. And for one of those, like, what was the render time?
Okay, there's a story behind this, because there was this deadline, and I had to meet the deadline.
There was this deadline.
Yeah. So they took a little longer to pick which 7 they wanted, like which of the ones like for me to remake and redo, because I was ready to go with the styles, but I was like, okay, this is not going to get done in time. I have to buy way more GPUs. I looked at doing a cloud rendering, but the cloud renderer I use is based on like kind of like a crypto token. So like, I guess between the last time I used it and now, it had like doubled or tripled in price. So like rendering one visual would have cost about $3,000. So about the same as just buying a GPU and having it forever.
Right.
So I ended up buying 2 GPUs plus upgrading my entire network. So all my computers have 4 computers rendering together, so they talk to each other. I upgraded that, increased the speed by 10 times. And
no big deal.
And yeah, that's how I was able to get these visuals done in time. So each one took about 2 days instead of taking
that's with the like 10 times upgrade with all the new the upgrades that you did.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, before it would have taken 6 days before I upgraded all that. So I sped my renders up by 3 times.
And then times the 7 animations that we did, that would have been like a month to do. So made it work. Super heavy, super huge, but as I know and as you know, your work is basically built for that spherical format. You build your work out in 360. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Everything I render is in 360 because like rendering takes the longest, but after you finish rendering, you can, when you have a 360 video, you can change everything. If you want to edit it to music or something, you can change the camera direction or the focal point, or you can like spherify, like you can make all sorts of crazy effects because it's like you have the entire world to play with. And when you're editing like at that stage, it's way faster. You can make whatever you want and you can encode a video in like half an hour.
Amazing. Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have when you're making work or sourcing inspiration? Is it literally just like power and efficiency and time?
It's software. I crash it a lot.
Yeah.
I find so many ways to break it. I've broken everything I use in so many creative ways. It is like, because I'm trying to like do all sorts of like really crazy things, like combine like 20 layers at once, and then like each of those layers I pre-comp into like more different combined layers, and then if I want to render something, I take the materials and I like to bend light in different ways you wouldn't see in the real world, because if you're simulating light, you can do some crazy stuff. So I like to like make these crazy materials that like bend light and just do all sorts of like weird things to it to like make the effects I do. And I guess the software doesn't like me like messing around. Oh, actually, I have something up right now. I will show you one of my materials. This is just like a material I use for like something like, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's on my screen right now. And that's just like one material for one surface, and it's got like a million different layers and doing a million different things at once.
Oh my God, that's a little behind the scenes for all the folks.
Yeah.
I mean, the way your brain works and the way you've even like figured out how to make that all look like the work behind you is so amazing. So amazing. I see a bunch of questions popping up in the comments. Feel free to drop it in the little question mark at the bottom, and we'll get to those in a second. I want to make sure that people's cues are answered by Mike here in just a minute. But I just wanted to wrap out. What do you want to get into next? Like, where do you want to take this? Are you just constantly pushing the limits? Is there anything that you want to get into in 2025 with, your work or visuals or dream clients or software? Like, but apart from Sphere, like, what's goals?
Goals. Oh, I have many. I want to explore like any kind of new technology that comes out, any kind of like new display technology that we're going to get in the next few years. I want to be right on top of that. So there's like the holographic 3D. I bought one of those or what is it called? I bought one of those like holographic displays that you can like look at it and turn it and you can see around the image and stuff. So
cool. Is it flat? It's like a flat display?
Yeah, it's flat, but it's a little thick because it has like a lenticular, like a super, like it's a lens that splits the image that you put into it into like 40 different like kind of like rays that your eye sees. So it's kind of like you're looking at a real life hologram. And you can make videos for that. Cool. And that's like super cool. Forgot what it's called. I haven't used it in forever because I think the one I got was broken, or there's something wrong with it, so it doesn't really work properly. And then I got so wrapped up in other projects that I haven't had time to look into it. Then there's like the hardware. I want to make some hardware. I want to make some. I can't really give away too many ideas, but I want to make stuff people can buy and like have my visuals like in their home. Like if say you have like a little projector that you just put in the middle of your room, and those star projectors that put galaxies on your ceiling and stuff. Yeah. It would take like visuals, so you could like get my visuals and you could have them project onto the ceiling. It would stretch the image over your whole ceiling and maybe some of your walls too if you're into that. And if you're playing music, it would listen to it and those visuals would react to the music too.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Kind of like a next level galaxy display thing, except super high quality ray trace visuals. So that's going to be something I'm going to be looking into now that we have like technology's getting cheaper with projectors and those kind of like little doodads that people can get. So
love that. Do you do time coded stuff often with your work to music?
Yeah.
Or use software to do it actually?
Yeah,
or both?
Yeah, there's different ways. Like
Okay.
I use software. I have like a whole like stack of like sound reactive because every visual I render now. At the same time, I output 20 different layers. So if I have 20 lights in the scene, each light will get its own video, and then afterwards I can combine them and have each light react to a different sound frequency of the music. So like if you're listening to a song, you'll see like the whole scene light up with different like sounds and voices or whatever is in the music, like make different things in the video react. And it really doesn't add a whole lot of render time to
Cool.
when I'm rendering things because the renderer just combines all those layers anyway to make the final video. So it just gives me more freedom to like kind of like play with the visual after it's rendered. Also, I do live visuals too, so I take those layers and I use like a program. I use Resolume,
Mm.
and I have lots of friends who like they DJ,
Hmm.
so we throw like our own little mini festivals in the woods, and I bring my projectors and like have like all the visuals going, and I just have my deck and I go nuts like mixing the visuals live. Plus I've made all sorts of effects like that work in real time, so I can acidify them, make them melt to the music and stuff.
Amazing. Is this
Yeah,
always
it's
like in the
really
woods
fun.
in Vancouver?
Yeah. Well,
Amazing. So in
it's
order to
also
see it, you
like
got to go to Vancouver.
oh yeah, it's also like if I go to festivals, I kind of do a little art installation. So I bring like either a big geodesic dome that I put together and
Amazing.
project onto it, or just a giant screen. And I have my computer, so people can hook up like or can I have an Xbox controller hooked up, so people can sit with the controller and play with my visuals and use the same program. They can control
Wow.
everything just with the
Super cool.
controller, and they have a lot of fun.
Super cool. What do you hope that people get out of your work? Is it like the experience? Is it like the interactivity? Is it like, the visuals with music? Like what makes you happiest when people engage and interact with your work?
Just their enjoyment. I just making I love making stuff that people enjoy and like have fun with and like just brightens their day.
I mean, it blows their minds also,
Yeah,
honestly.
I love
Have,
blowing mine.
I mean,
I
I
love
think
showing people things they've never seen before, and they like look at it and like, what is that?
that's
And
so cool. I mean, I know in my, own personal journey with creative as an artist and being in the art world, personally, psychedelics have like really benefited and helped just kind of like expanding the thought process and, being able to see things visually and, all of that. Was psychedelics a big influence for you or an influence at all?
oh, absolutely, yeah. That was what kind of like kicked my ass into gear and to start like doing something, you know, like I had, before I had all these different hobbies and stuff. I liked filming like little movies. I like, hacking video games and just, I had I had a million different hobbies, but I never really got anywhere with them because I had another new kind of interest pop up. And psychedelics kind of like showed me I'm like, there's, you can do a lot if you just put your focus into one thing. And when I first, I kind of like, when I first went to I went to my first festival. I went to Shambhala, like the first real festival. That was like you're camping there. You're there for like multiple days,
Hmm.
and I'm like I really want to like somehow contribute to this in some way, like either like designing stages or whatever. But I had one trip in particular that showed me some things that I couldn't believe, and that's a spark that was like I gotta animate this. I gotta. People aren't gonna believe that you're people think of tripping that you're kind of drunk but you just see more colors or you see like you hallucinate things that aren't there like pink elephants or whatever. But when I closed my eyes and I saw stuff that was like Pixar level quality, but it was like unlike anything that's ever been like filmed before, I was like, I gotta kind of recreate this. I gotta show people like just the kind of thing that happens in my head, like all these crazy mathematical kind of like
So
impossible looking
cool.
shapes that transform. And it was really inspiring. I'm like, I don't know where this comes from, but it is awesome, and
That's
I
so
think people
cool.
would love seeing it.
Did you ever envision that you would like end up being an animator, making these visuals, being on the sphere, like having this as like your main creative output? Was that ever something that you thought about 5-10 years ago?
Not when I first started. I first started and I was like, you know, it was just for entertainment. It was just mostly for my entertainment. Like, I want to see what I could do and what I could make my computers do. And then when people really started liking it, then I could kind of saw a future in it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see how far I can take this. And after 2 years of doing it, one of my favorite artists ever, Alex Gray, he followed me on Instagram, and that sealed the deal. Right there, I was like, one of my favorite artists,
So
whose art I've
validated.
enjoyed forever, like followed me as a fan of my stuff. Okay, I'm getting somewhere with this, and yeah, that was
So amazing.
that was the beginning, the real beginning, where things really took off.
Have you worked with him or collaborated on any events or done his events with Alex and Allison Gray?
Yeah, I have some of my art playing at their space right now.
Yeah.
I really want to go visit. I'm just trying to find the time, but I definitely want to do some stuff in the future. It's just the art he does is so awesome. Every time I see a new post of his, I'm like, wow, this is it.
Yeah.
This is like
Such a visionary. Such a visionary. Yeah. Allison too. I mean, I love both of their work. I've worked with them in the past, and
oh yeah, her language, like the art with the letters and stuff.
So cool.
I saw those.
Is super cool. As people, they're like the sweetest, you know, most adorable couple that's been together in psychedelic for centuries, it seems. So they're amazing. I'm going to go ahead and start opening it up to some of these questions that are coming in, because I know they're just going to keep rolling. I want to be able to get to some of these cues. So down below, there's a little question mark bubble. If anyone wants to add some questions, I'm just going to start getting into it. HBD Hular, what is the upper limit in terms of resolution that your visuals can reach? So this is like a technical question about resolution. What's the max?
The max is 12K. Not my fault. Not my computer's fault. I blame Adobe. Their max resolution is 12K. And I would love to make 16K content for the inside of the sphere, but that's the limit unless I use some other software which wouldn't have some of the crazy effects I use, some of the tools, and I'd have to redo my entire workflow, which would be a monumental task.
Yeah, I hear that. From Spin 602, what are your thoughts on AI for your industry? Is AI something that you consider or get into or want to get into or shy away from?
AI is, I got mixed feelings. So I don't like how it trained on artist art, and like, you know, now you can like type in make this in the style of whoever and it'll make a picture of whoever, and it kind of like takes away like a lot of people, it rubbed people the wrong way. Yeah. I personally tried AI art. I tried training it on my art. I tried like, you know, because I wanted it to help my workflow so I could like, you know, put in a bunch of my stuff and then use it to apply it to my other visuals. So I can make like a base visual with some shapes. I could apply my art and make like variations of it on it. It's nowhere near ready for what I wanted to do, because you don't have a lot of control over it. You don't, it kind of just like is very unpredictable, and you have to put a seed in and every number is a different result. So you can't really fine tune it. It's getting better. It's getting pretty crazy, but I think it'll still be a while before I can use it in my workflow and just make every visual I make can have like its own kind of like 10, 20 different versions using my other art styles, so that I could expand the output I make by like hundreds of times, which would be pretty crazy.
I mean, if you're able to feed it and train it and just kind of prompt it with your own work and then generate more work based off of your own workflow, then I mean, that seems like for someone with the quantity of work that you do, that it would be beneficial.
Yeah. Like I think artists can embrace AI for their own personal use. Like if they want to have some ideas and it's they can train it on their art, their model only for their own use, and kind of like just come up with variations and visually see like what direction to take their art in that they like the most. It's kind of good. It's great for that. Like, but it's kind of like
it's a trick
people.
It's a tricky thing for sure.
because I posted some AI stuff that I experimented with in the past, and like, you know, some people loved it, some people hated it, and when I posted it, still didn't feel like it was fully me. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, even though I was like trying to do new tricks with it that no one has tried before, like kind of like using my visuals to change the flow of it and stuff, it's still, I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like
I can agree
the
with
raw
that.
power that I put into these, like all the energy, that the careful, like the way I have to make everything look to end up like that.
I mean, even though your work is like, there's so much depth and there's so much complexity and there's so much going on, I know that what you're building is like so specific to what you want to be building, and like so intricate and specific to like how you want the output to be. It's, you know, it's like, it's still coming from your brain. It's still coming from an artist's brain. And I think that there's a lot of intention there that, you know, AI won't be able to develop maybe ever. And I think I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, when I get like some kind of, I don't want to say neural link, but I don't know, some kind of like interface where I can just think what I'm seeing in my head directly onto the screen, I think that's going to be the absolute like game changer. And
Yeah.
it might take AI to like be able to read brain signals and interpret them back into an image.
The
But
Neuralink. I'm going to dive back into some questions here. Alexander Urson wants to know, do you have a single favorite render? I'm going to say the cats. What's your favorite piece you've ever done? Do you have one?
it is so hard to decide because I love so many of them, and I always feel like they're a work in progress. So, because as I get more advanced, like GPUs and stuff, like I keep upgrading them continuously because, you know, everything I make, I feel like there's a limit. I hit a hard limit. I have to get this rendered in a certain amount of time. It could look so much crazier. It could have so many more things happening in it. So, and my favorite renders changed. Like when I add a new thing to one that I didn't really like before, now I love it. It's like, it's a continuous changing thing. And
do you feel like you go through phases of colors, like favorite colors or favorite palettes?
All of them, all of the above.
All of the palettes.
Every color jamming at the same time, as many colors as I can fit on the screen at once. Plus with HDR, the HDR is amazing. That new format, as soon as like platforms like Instagram and YouTube started supporting it, I dove right in because like instead of 60 million colors, you get 1 billion colors to play with and mix around and mix accurately. And you can make stuff like this that is absolutely like, my phone, my camera can't even capture it, but it's going nuts right now.
Yeah, totally. It's so funny.
Yeah.
What kind of dreams do you have? Do you dream? Do you remember your dreams? I always think that this is such an interesting thing with artists and with visual artists.
Yeah, I don't know. I have strange dreams. I have dreams where I'm like sometimes back in school and I realize I'm in school, but I don't realize I'm in a dream or whatever. I have dreams where like they're just really crazy and make no sense. Like the plot can be just the most ridiculous thing. Sometimes I don't often have nightmares. I actually rarely ever have nightmares, but sometimes I'll have like dreams that predict the future, and I'm sure other people out there have, because the more I read about it, the more people have like these precognitive dreams where they dream about something happening and it happens almost the same way, but there's always some little detail. It's not fully accurate, but it's happened to me a bunch of times, and that's a really weird one.
I think that's just like meaning that you're tapping into your intuitive and maybe a little bit psychic. And I mean, you're definitely higher connected, or like, you know, bigger connectivity than maybe a lot of the population, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the brain is like a prediction machine in a way. Like that's how you catch a ball. You see the path going, and yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. The more you start to learn about it.
Totally. Karan Singh, sorry, I'm going to butcher everyone's names, is curious, will you ever start a masterclass? Is that something that you're interested in doing, kind of teaching, you know, tutorials, techniques, masterclass stuff?
I would love to. That's been a goal since like very early on, because like it's just the time it takes, because I work a full-time job, plus I do the visuals, like I have to make the posts for online, plus I'm like doing the work for people. But doing a class would be amazing, because I would get to see like not just what's in my head, like what's in other people's heads. Like if I could teach how people can get like their inner visions like out onto the screen, I could see a lot more of like, you know, what people's like what kind of stuff they see in their head.
Yeah, hell yeah. Do you take, I don't really know what this means, maybe you do. Do you take any inspiration from Milk Drop in your designs and work?
Milk Drop was one of my favorite visualizers ever. If anyone remembers that, that was ahead of its time in so many ways. I love that thing. I downloaded thousands of presets. I even like tried writing my own presets back in the day before I even got into visuals. That thing was a glorious thing to stare at, and it definitely has some inspiration because like in my head I see a lot of like kind of fractal patterns, but it's basically just the same thing repeating, and as it repeats going into the background it changes a little too, so it's like a transformative thing. So I started working that kind of stuff real early into my visuals because I just like the idea of like just having multiples of something that are all changing as it goes down the list down into their iterations. So that shows up a lot of my work, and that definitely comes from Milk Drop inspiration. I love that.
Cool.
That was a great visualizer, and they need to update it for today's technology because it was next level.
Great question from HDB Hular. One from Tar Lee Ah. Do you use math to create these visuals? We're going to get into some more tech questions here. Is math a thing that kind of influences or is included in your work?
Math is what my visuals are made of. Because that is it makes everything. Like I can't be bothered to like sit there and 3D model something and like sit there and like sculpt a face, because like the visuals I see in my head, they're all based on math, and everything is like sine waves, and you know, kind of like if you want to generate fractals, like the kinds of fractal sign maker like L system curves. So it's just like, you know, a code that says go left, go right, go left, and then repeat that pattern like forever to create these complex shapes. And that's the kind of thing like I can generate whatever I want just using like some simple like math and L system rules and whatever I want. This isn't a good example because I just kind of clumped a bunch of visuals together, or a bunch of shapes onto a racetrack, but the racetrack itself was generated out of math. It's like if you take a couple of formulas and make a line fold in on itself 3 times, that's a trefoil knot, and that's what the track is made of. So that's what it's going through. Stuff like that.
This is my favorite one. The checkerboard stuff that you do are my favorite. I love those.
I wonder if I could fix the oops. Yeah,
I don't know. You're just like blowing the camera's mind right now with all of it.
Yeah, he's having a little trouble.
I mean, you're super like left brain and right brain at the same time. You like have heavy math brain and heavy creative brain. I think that's what geniuses are made of.
Thank you.
Back to technical stuff. For those that missed it, what program do you work in? Like, what's your main software output that you use?
Main software, I build everything in Cinema 4D. I render it all with Octane Render. Then when I take all the render files, I use Adobe After Effects to kind of put them together and change the camera, like control the camera and stuff. And then output it with Media Encoder. Then if I want to play it live, I use Resolume.
Cool.
So that's most of it. Sometimes I will upscale it using Topaz Video AI, but it's I have a love-hate relationship with that one because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I hear that. Question from Will B34. This is about the sphere again. Did you have any limitations on how hard you could go at the sphere for fear of distracting traffic and air traffic? I mean, valid question, and I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Did you think about that?
Not really, not at all. When I got to make visuals for the sphere, I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna do as much as I can to like, I'm gonna push these computers to the limits and just throw everything I have on that display, like in terms of like just the raw pixel pushing power it has. I figured when I was pulling up to I drove to Vegas, me and my girlfriend, and we're pulling up, and we saw the sphere like at a distance, and we were like, whoa, but the traffic going into the city was so crazy because I guess it was like, New Year's Eve, so it was absolutely
Right.
crazy. So, I still looked at the road. I was still like not trying to look at the sphere too much because I knew I was gonna see it. But yeah, it was crazy that night. And I don't know. I feel like if you live in Vegas and you're driving around, you might just be used to seeing all that stuff on the sphere.
I mean, you can see it from the freeway. You can see it driving through Vegas. You can see it, like driving at a lot of points in Vegas. And it's pretty amazing. It is kind of distracting, but it's like,
Yeah,
it's
but I
such a
think
step.
people they like being alive more than like staring at something.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that, I mean, as you know, Vegas there's so much eye candy all around. I think you just kind of get used to it. But yeah, it definitely stands out. It definitely stands out. And I don't think that we ever considered like being cautious when you were building out those visuals. It was kind of like, what's the craziest thing that you can do?
yeah.
Totally. How do you feel about working with musicians on visuals? Is that something that you're still doing, live shows or
Oh yeah.
visuals for their shows?
Oh yeah. That's where most of the money comes in. Because like, yeah, posting on social media and stuff is good. I have my own store where I sell my loops and stuff. But like doing music visuals, like I did a music video for John Hopkins this past summer,
That's
which is
right.
probably one of the craziest things I've ever made. That was like by far my most complex animation ever. Like I pushed so many limits making that one that it's unbelievable that it works. But like that kind of stuff, like making like, especially like if I'm making like a track to a song, and I
Mm-hmm.
could really like, you know, just tune every layer, make everything react the same way, and just have like the music flow like synesthetically the way I see it in my head, what kind of sounds make what kind of shapes and stuff. Like that kind of stuff is like it's so much fun. And especially getting to see it like after it's finished and watching it like move to the music and having that kind of like experience where it's like an audio visual just combination that like just really massages your mind.
Totally.
That's what dreams are made of. I love that.
I mean, that's got to be like a dream project or one of your favorite things that you've worked on, John Hopkins Sphere. Is there anything else other like, shows that were amazing or festivals that you did, like some of your favorite work that you've done or experiences that you've had?
Well, John Hopkins was my favorite because like people got to see it. Because a
Cool.
lot of the stuff I make for live festivals is like you see it when you're at the festival, but you don't really see it online unless people took videos of it.
Yeah.
So I guess my favorites were like all the work I did with Ellis Dream. If anyone's been to an Ellis Dream show, they know what an amazing, like mind-blowing show it is. Just like his music and the visuals that I made, like just go into it, like it is just completely face melting. So
Cool.
if you ever look up his live sets on YouTube, you're gonna be like, I got to see him live. Other ones I did were Excision and Subtronics and plus a bunch of like, I guess I didn't even know, but when I go to festivals, I see my visuals on the stages sometimes, and it's just like all the people who like bought my stuff off my store. So that's always a treat to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a big network for you is, the festivals and the music scene and all the other people that appreciate your work.
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
any advice for other animators or other artists that want to get into visuals or making animations or loops? Is there anything that kind of helped your journey or, things that you learned that made things easier or harder for you?
Um, Keep going. Don't stop. Do not stop. It doesn't matter if the algorithm isn't showing your stuff to people. Do not stop. I almost quit so many times because like I was making stuff that literally no one was seeing. Like the algorithm just would not show even my own followers. And yeah, it was really frustrating. But I kept going, I guess out of spite. I'm like, I'm not gonna let you like decide my work's not worthy of being shown to people, and I just kept going, and eventually like when you make enough stuff and enough people, the right people see it and people start sharing it to their friends, like it doesn't matter what the algorithm thinks. Like, people are gonna love it, and they're gonna like make sure anytime you post, they like make sure they find your stuff. So if you're starting out and you're getting discouraged because like no one's seeing it, just do it for yourself. Like, keep going and make something unique. Like, don't try and like follow other people's like kind of like stuff. Like, when I first started, I followed tutorials and stuff on how to make like what other people are making, and I'm like, it just looks like everyone else's stuff. Kind of like find something that's your own thing and your own style, something that like is unique to you, and that'll take you really far, way faster than if you post the same kind of stuff that other people are making.
I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things, is like developing an artist's vision or style. And I think you were lucky enough to have that insight and those visions of the work that you wanted to create, and to be able to create what you saw in your mind. And I think that building out that world and building out your own universe and like keeping consistency and keeping like being inspired just from your own work is huge. And I mean, you built this huge body of work that's like super identifiable. It's all like within the same world visually and technically, and you've done a really good job with that. But I think a lot of that is just to continue making work and continue to like have that drive and have that push.
Yeah. Also, you got to really enjoy doing it. You got to really like, it takes a lot of time. I put most of my free time into visuals, and like that's how you can get really far. Like, if you're putting all your time, as much as you can, into it, it's a lot of hard work, but you have to really enjoy it. Like, it has to be really fun for you. So if you're having a lot of fun making it, then you're not going to mind putting like hours of a day into it, and it shouldn't feel like work. It shouldn't feel like that you're I gotta make art now, man. Yeah. I'm so tired of doing that, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point it like you kind of get into that groove of it being comfortable and it being like a necessary part of you. And if it feels uncomfortable, try something different. If it feels difficult, try another medium or another software. I think that it should feel good. It should feel fun. I think you're totally right.
Yeah, but also take breaks. Remember to have a life too. I've gone through phases where I did nothing but visuals and got a little obsessive. So, make sure to take breaks and like do other things you enjoy. Just, I haven't traveled a whole lot yet, so I'm gonna try to get in on that, like do a little bit of that, and just like make sure you're not just when the pandemic happened, I was making visuals like my entire waking life. So yeah, and that kind of stuck around after the pandemic ended. So yeah, I'm finding more of a balance these days. It's hard to break out of.
Yeah, the balance is important. The balance is super important. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close this out so that you can have a nice, balanced, chill evening and decompress and maybe make some visuals. Thank you so much for chatting with us for the last 45 minutes or so, and thank you everyone that joined. We're going to keep this IG Live available on our reels, on our conversations. We'll upload it on Vimeo. We'll chop it up. Feel free to watch it again, share it with a friend. Give Mike a follow if you don't already. Again, we're H Plus Creative in Los Angeles, an agency that represents Mike's work from the Sphere, and more to come in the future. I'm super excited for everything that's in store and that we've already done. But thank you so much, Mike. Any last words, last thoughts?
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'm really excited to show you what's coming in the future.
Hell yeah.
Oh boy, this is just the beginning. It all feels like it's just the beginning, but there's always crazy stuff coming.
Hell yeah. Oh boy is right, motherfuckers. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you. Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been amazing. Feel free to send us a DM, pop in Mike's DMs, and keep up the creative hustle. I really appreciate it, and thank you everyone, and have a beautiful night.
Oh yeah, have a good night everyone.
Thank you guys.